In the serene embrace of Willow Creek, where the gentle whispers of nature blend with the quaint rhythms of small-town life, the tale of two sisters unfolds. Abigail Harrington, the elder, embodies the spirit of simplicity and grace, her life a testament to the virtues of contentment and service. Teaching at the local school, she finds profound joy in the bright eyes of her students as they discover new worlds within the pages of their books and the boundaries of their imagination. Rosalind, the younger, is the mirror opposite, her soul aflame with ambitions that stretch far beyond the lush green boundaries of Willow Creek. The city, with its towering skyscrapers and endless opportunities, calls to her. It promises a life of glamour, wealth, and status, a stark contrast to the humble existence she perceives at home. Their parents, Charles and Elizabeth Harrington, stand as pillars of the community, their wealth matched only by their generosity and kindness. The Harrington estate, a sprawling testament to both history and beauty, serves as a sanctuary not just for the family but for those in need, its gardens a favorite retreat for Elizabeth and Abigail. One crisp autumn day, as the town of Willow Creek began to don its golden hues, the Harrington family found themselves in the company of Mr. Blackwood, the family lawyer, within the warm confines of the estate's study. The air, usually light with the scent of Elizabeth's favorite jasmine tea, carried a weightier presence that day. Abigail, seated gracefully by the fireplace, her hands folded in her lap, glanced towards Mr. Blackwood with a mixture of curiosity and concern. "Mr. Blackwood, is there something amiss with the will?" she inquired, her voice soft yet steady. Mr. Blackwood, adjusting his glasses, offered a reassuring smile before he could respond. The shrill tone of a phone pierced the room's somber atmosphere. Abigail excused herself, retrieving her phone from the mahogany desk near the window. "Abigail, darling," came Rosalind's voice, silkily smooth yet tinged with a coldness that sent a shiver down Abigail's spine. "Finally, our filthy parents are dead, and they left all their money to me. I feel so bad for you." Abigail's heart clenched, not just at the words, but at the venom with which they were delivered. "Rosalind," she replied, her voice a calm contrast to the storm brewing within, "they are very much alive and sitting right next to me." A silence, thick and uncomfortable, stretched between them before Rosalind abruptly ended the call. Turning back to her parents and Mr. Blackwood, Abigail saw the mixture of sadness and resolve in their eyes. It was a moment of revelation, not just about the will, but about the depths of Rosalind's ambitions and the distance it had created between her and the values the Harrington family held dear. The discussion that followed was not just about the contents of a document, but about the legacy of a family and the lengths to which they would go to protect it from the corruption of greed. It was clear that the will, and the events surrounding it, would set the stage for a confrontation that would test the bonds of family, challenge the allure of wealth, and perhaps, in the end, offer a chance for redemption and understanding. As the amber sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the study, the Harringtons stood united, not just by blood but by a shared commitment to uphold the dignity of their legacy. The journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, but in their hearts, they knew that the true measure of their wealth was not in the gold that lined their coffers, but in the love and wisdom that had always been the true foundation of the Harrington estate. The Harrington study, with its walls lined with generations of family portraits and shelves burdened with heavy tomes of law and literature, was a place where history whispered secrets. As the amber light of the setting sun filtered through the tall windows, the room took on a solemn air, fitting for the discussion at hand. Mr. Blackwood, the family lawyer, a man whose presence was as commanding as his reputation, cleared his throat, signaling the beginning of a conversation that would unravel the carefully woven fabric of the Harrington family. "As you are all aware," he began, his voice steady, "the drafting of a will is a delicate matter, one that requires not just legal expertise, but a deep understanding of the family's wishes and values." Charles Harrington, the patriarch, nodded, his face etched with lines of wisdom and care. "We have given this much thought, Mr. Blackwood. Our primary concern is to ensure that our legacy is preserved and that our estate continues to serve the greater good, as it has for generations." Elizabeth, his wife, added softly, "We also wish to ensure that our daughters are provided for, but in a way that encourages them to lead meaningful lives. Wealth should be a tool for them, not a chain." Abigail listened, her heart swelling with pride for her parents' vision, but also tightening with concern for her sister, Rosalind. She knew well the seductive pull of wealth and the distance it had created between them. It was then that Abigail's phone rang, shattering the momentary calm. Excusing herself, she answered, only to be greeted by Rosalind's voice, dripping with premature triumph and thinly veiled contempt. "Finally, our filthy parents are dead, and they left all their money to me. I feel so bad for you." Abigail, stunned by the callousness of the words, replied with a composure she hardly felt, "Rosalind, they are very much alive and sitting right next to me." The silence that followed was a chasm, one that spoke volumes of the rift that had grown between the sisters. Rosalind's response, when it finally came, was a hasty retreat into denial and the end of the call. Returning to the study, Abigail relayed the conversation, her voice a mix of sadness and disbelief. Charles and Elizabeth exchanged a look, one that spoke of a deep sorrow for a daughter lost, not to death, but to greed. Mr. Blackwood adjusted his glasses, a gesture that seemed to precede important pronouncements. "This will," he said, tapping the document before him, "is more than a legal instrument. It's a testament to your values and a safeguard for your legacy." Elizabeth reached out, her hand finding Charles's, their fingers intertwining. "We had hoped Rosalind's heart would lead her back to us, to the true essence of our family. It seems we were mistaken." Abigail, feeling a surge of determination, spoke up. "We must confront her, not with anger, but with the truth. She needs to understand the depth of her actions and the path she's chosen." Mr. Blackwood nodded in agreement. "The will, as it stands, entrusts the estate to you, Abigail, with significant contributions to charity. However, given today's revelations, I advise we revisit its terms, to provide for Rosalind in a manner that might encourage reflection and, hopefully, change." The conversation that followed was not just about figures and clauses, but about hope, forgiveness, and the difficult love that sometimes required letting go. As night fell and the study was bathed in the soft glow of lamplight, the Harringtons, united by love and tested by trial, prepared to face the challenges ahead, their legacy not just preserved in ink and paper, but in the strength of their bonds and the courage of their convictions. The evening air was crisp, a herald of the coming winter, as the Harrington family gathered once more in the study, this time to address the fallout of Rosalind's actions. The warmth of the fire crackling in the hearth did little to ease the tension that hung over the room like a thick fog. Charles Harrington, the very embodiment of the family's storied past, was the first to break the silence. "We stand at a crossroads," he began, his voice resonant with the weight of his words. "The path we choose tonight will define not just our legacy, but the very soul of our family." Elizabeth, always the heart to Charles's resolve, added, "We have always sought to instill in our daughters the values that have guided us, compassion, integrity, and the understanding that true wealth lies not in material riches but in the love and respect we share." Abigail, feeling a blend of anticipation and dread, waited for her parents to continue. She knew the revelation of Rosalind's deceit was a moment of truth, one that would either mend or further fray the delicate fabric of their family. Charles turned his gaze to Mr. Blackwood, who had been a silent sentinel up to this point. "Mr. Blackwood, if you would please explain the nature of the test we devised and its unfortunate but revealing outcome." The lawyer nodded, his expression somber. "With your permission," he started, addressing the room, "I will disclose the details of a plan conceived by Charles and Elizabeth, designed to reveal the true character of those who stand to inherit the Harrington legacy." He paused, ensuring he had everyone's attention. A rumor was deliberately spread, suggesting that Charles and Elizabeth had passed away and that the will had been finalized, favoring Rosalind exclusively. This misinformation, we hoped, would bring to light the true intentions and feelings of those involved. Abigail interjected, her voice steady but laced with emotion. "Rosalind's call to me was the result of this test, a test she failed not because she believed our parents dead, but because her first and only thought was of the wealth she believed she'd inherited." The room fell into a heavy silence, the gravity of the situation settling in. It was Elizabeth who finally spoke, her voice a whisper of sadness. "Our hearts grieve not for the loss of wealth, but for the loss of the daughter we once knew." The Rosalind who played in these halls, who laughed and dreamed with us, seems a stranger now. Charles stood, his posture that of a man who, despite the burdens he carried, remained unbroken. It is not our desire to punish Rosalind but to awaken her to the true value of family and the responsibilities that come with our name. Turning to Abigail, he continued, "You, Abigail, have shown the strength and character befitting a steward of the Harrington legacy. It is our wish that you lead, not just in managing the estate, but in guiding Rosalind back to us, if her heart so allows." Abigail felt the weight of her parents' trust, a mantle she accepted not out of duty, but love. "I will do all I can," she promised, her voice firm. "But Rosalind must also want to find her way back. Our love for her will never wane, but it is her choices that will determine the path ahead." As the fire dwindled to embers, the Harrington family, united in their resolve but divided by fate, faced the future with a mixture of hope and sorrow. Their legacy, built on generations of love and sacrifice, now rested in the hands of two sisters, each charting a course through the turbulent waters of inheritance, identity, and the indelible bonds of family. The Harrington estate had never felt more like a fortress, its grand walls echoing with the tension of the impending confrontation. Rosalind was due to arrive at any moment, and the air was thick with anticipation. Abigail, standing by the window, watched the sun dip below the horizon, its fading light casting long shadows across the manicured lawns. Her parents, Charles and Elizabeth, were a study in composed apprehension. Charles paced slowly, hands clasped behind his back, while Elizabeth sat, her hands folded in her lap, the very picture of grace under pressure. The sound of a car pulling up the gravel driveway broke the silence. Abigail's heart skipped a beat. "She's here," she announced, her voice steady, despite the turmoil inside. As Rosalind entered the room, the contrast between the sisters was striking. Rosalind, draped in the latest city fashion, exuded a misplaced confidence, while Abigail, in her simple yet elegant attire, embodied the understated dignity of the Harrington legacy. Rosalind's eyes darted around, taking in the somber expressions. "What's this about then? If you're trying to scare me, it's working," she quipped, attempting to mask her nervousness with bravado. Charles, taking the lead, addressed her directly. "Rosalind, we are not here to frighten you, but to confront a truth that cannot remain unspoken." Rosalind scoffed, "What truth? That you're finally giving me what I deserve?" Elizabeth's voice was soft, but it carried. "No, my dear. The truth about the test you failed, about the call you made to Abigail, and about the future of our family." Rosalind's facade began to crumble, her initial defiance giving way to confusion. "Test? What are you talking about?" Abigail stepped forward, her resolve clear. "The call you made to me, Rosalind, gloating about our parents' supposed death and your inheritance, it was a test, one you were unaware of. A test of character." The realization hit Rosalind like a physical blow, her confidence evaporating as the gravity of her actions settled in. I don't understand." "A test? But why?" Charles answered, "Because we feared your love for wealth and status had overshadowed your love for this family. We needed to know if our suspicions were true." Tears welled up in Rosalind's eyes as she turned to Elizabeth. "Mother, Elizabeth interrupted, her disappointment evident. "Your actions spoke louder than any words could, Rosalind. You chose greed over family. But even now, we hope you can learn, change." Rosalind, overwhelmed by a flood of emotions, finally broke down. "I'm sorry," she sobbed, the weight of her choices crashing down upon her. "I was so caught up in the glamour, the allure of the city. I forgot what truly mattered. Can you ever forgive me?" Abigail, moved by her sister's distress, took a step closer. "Forgiveness is possible, Rosalind, but trust is harder to rebuild. We want to help you find your way back, but you have to want it, too." The room, once charged with tension, now resonated with a fragile hope. The confrontation had laid bare painful truths, but it also opened a path to healing and reconciliation. Charles, his voice firm yet compassionate, laid out the path forward. "We will amend the will once more. You will have a stipend, Rosalind, enough to ensure you are cared for, but not enough to fuel your previous lifestyle. It's an opportunity, not a punishment, an opportunity to rediscover what it means to be a Harrington. Rosalind, still grappling with her emotions, nodded. I understand. Thank you for giving me another chance. I want to be better. As the evening drew to a close, the Harringtons faced an uncertain future, but one brightened by the prospect of redemption and the enduring strength of familial bonds. The confrontation had been painful, yet necessary, a pivotal moment in the journey of a family striving to uphold their legacy while navigating the treacherous waters of wealth, ambition, and the unbreakable ties of kinship. The days following the confrontation were a time of quiet reflection for the Harrington family, particularly for Rosalind. The once bustling estate seemed to embrace a more subdued rhythm, as if nature itself was giving the family space to heal and ponder the path ahead. Rosalind had taken to walking the gardens in the early mornings, when the mist still clung to the petals of the roses, and the world felt fresh and new. It was on one such morning that Abigail found her, seated on a wrought iron bench, her gaze lost in the maze of blooms before her. Mind if I join you? Abigail asked, her voice gentle, not wanting to intrude on her sister's solitude. Rosalind looked up, a faint smile touching her lips. Please, sit. They sat in silence for a while, each lost in thought. Finally, Rosalind spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. Do you think I can really change, Abby? Abigail turned to her, sensing the vulnerability in her sister's question. I believe anyone can change, Rosalind, if they truly want to. It won't be easy, but I know you have the strength to do it. Rosalind nodded, her eyes moist. I've been thinking about the stipend, and what I want to do with it. I don't want to waste this second chance. That's a good start, Abigail encouraged. Have you thought about what you're passionate about? Something that could give you purpose? I've always loved art, but I pursued it in the wrong ways, through extravagant gatherings and expensive pieces. Maybe I could find a way to explore it more, humbly, Rosalind pondered, the idea seeming to take root. Abigail smiled, pleased to see her sister considering a meaningful path. That sounds wonderful. Art can be very fulfilling, and there are many ways to engage with it that don't require wealth. Maybe you could take classes, or even volunteer at a local community center to teach art to children. Rosalind's eyes lit up with a spark that had been missing for too long. Teaching? I hadn't thought of that. It could be rewarding. As the sun climbed higher, casting a warm glow over the garden, the sisters continued to talk. They discussed practical steps Rosalind could take, from researching art programs to setting a budget that would allow her to pursue her interests without falling back into old habits. The conversation then turned to the stipend, with Abigail explaining how it would be managed. The stipend is set up to support you, not just financially, but as a stepping stone towards independence and responsibility. It's important to see it as part of your journey, not your destination. Rosalind nodded, taking in her sister's words. I see that now. And I'm grateful for it. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I have a direction, a purpose beyond just more. Their talk stretched on, and by the time they rose from the bench, the initial chill of the morning had given way to a comfortable warmth. They walked back to the house together, their steps light, a symbol of the slowly mending bridge between them. This chapter in the Harrington saga was about more than just financial arrangements. It was a testament to the power of second chances and the enduring hope that family can provide. Rosalind's journey was just beginning, but with the support of her family and a newfound purpose, the path ahead seemed a little less daunting. The stipend, a symbol of both consequence and opportunity, would be the foundation upon which Rosalind could rebuild her life, grounded in the values that had once seemed so distant but now promised a brighter, more meaningful future. Months had passed since the confrontation that had set the stage for Rosalind's redemption and the reaffirmation of the Harringtons' values. The estate, once a silent witness to the family's turmoil, now resonated with a renewed sense of purpose and unity. It was during the annual Willow Creek Community Gala, an event much beloved by the Harringtons for its ability to bring the community together, that the true extent of the family's healing and growth became evident. Abigail, who had been more involved in the community's educational programs, was overseeing the final preparations for the gala. Rosalind, surprisingly to many but most naturally to those who knew of her recent journey, was by her side, offering a helping hand wherever needed. As they arranged the last of the decorations in the grand ballroom, Rosalind turned to Abigail, a reflective look in her eyes. "Do you remember, Abby, how I used to view these events? As mere opportunities to flaunt wealth and status?" Abigail placed a comforting hand on her sister's shoulder. "I do. But people change, Rosalind. You've changed. Look at you now, helping to bring joy to others, not for recognition, but for the genuine satisfaction it brings." Rosalind smiled, a true, heartfelt smile. "It's funny how losing everything I thought I wanted led me to find what I truly needed. This feeling of being part of something bigger than myself, it's new to me, but it feels right." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of their parents, who looked around the beautifully decorated room with evident pride. "You've both done a wonderful job," their mother said, her voice warm with appreciation. Their father, a man of few words, added, "The legacy of the Harrington family is not in the wealth we've amassed, but in the values we uphold and pass on. Seeing you both work together, for the benefit of our community, reassures me that our legacy is in good hands." The gala was a resounding success, with the community coming together to celebrate not just the changing of seasons but the spirit of unity and generosity that the Harringtons had always championed. As the night wore on, Abigail and Rosalind took a moment to step outside, looking at the stars that twinkled above the Willow Creek estate. "Tonight was perfect, Abby." "It's hard to believe how much has changed," Rosalind mused, her gaze still fixed on the heavens. "It's been a journey for all of us," Abigail agreed, "but we've come out stronger for it. Our family's legacy isn't just about preserving the past, it's about building a future that reflects the best of who we are." Rosalind nodded, her thoughts turning inward. "I once thought that legacy was about wealth and the material things we leave behind. But I see now, it's much more than that. It's about the impact we have on others, the love we share, and the difference we make in the world." As they returned to the gala, the sisters walked hand in hand, a symbol of their renewed bond and shared commitment to their family's legacy. The Harrington estate, with its grandeur and history, stood not as a monument to wealth but as a beacon of hope, love, and generosity, a legacy preserved not in gold, but in the actions and hearts of its heirs.